Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I thought this week I'm going to do a tips video with you, and I decided that I'm going to show you how I sew my elastics with my overlocker. For me it's the easiest way. I don't ever really go to my sewing machine and do a zigzag stitch. I do everything on my overlocker. If you look at the skirt that I've got here, I've actually put my little dolly quite high so that I don't have to bend too much. But if you look at this, I've got this skirt that I made. It's got like a crochet fabric, and what I did with this, I just lined it with a little bit of I think it was trilobal, it wasn't even bonbon, and I did this whole skirt on my overlocker, because everything that I sewed, I just sewed together in one go. And then when I did the elastic, just to show you, I'm going to roll it out. I sew my elastic. I'm going to ask Peter to zoom in for me. Alright, so you'll see my elastic is loose at the bottom. I sew it just onto the edge and I fold it over. And then what I do in the sides where I can, I stitch in the ditch. Usually if it's a pants and I've got the center seams here, I would stitch in the ditch as well. But with this one, I actually went and I just caught it with a little stitch just to keep it down. So you don't see that I've got an elastic casing. You don't see my elastic, and it won't roll out either. I'll wear this, and I'm telling you, there is just no way it's going to roll out. I've got another skirt here that I've done as well. I'm just going to show you this skirt as well, a bit close up. Again, what you will see, if I have to hold it like this, you don't see a casing at all. And then I'm just going to lift this up. Can you see? I'll go and sew my elastic on just like that. Bottom I leave loose. Everything is just there. Fold it over, and again you'll see I can't lift there. I go stitch in the ditch. So I've got no curl whatsoever when I'm working with my elastics. I also do my narrow elastics that way. If you look at this nightie that I've made, and let's just put that straight. Again, I've done the inside. Let's see if you can see if we zoom in. The inside, again, I've sewn this elastic. It's like your panty elastic. I've sewn it with the overlocker. And then all I did is when I took it to the inside, I went with my sewing machine and I did that little serpentine stitch. So I did that one over there just to keep it in. So you can see if I'm working on my overlocker, there's so many functions. I literally do construction. I do my elastics. I just posted this morning a Bernina YouTube video on doing a blind hem. So go and have a look at that as well. So let's go to the overlocker machine. Let me show you how we sew this. Alright, so the first one I'm going to show you is when I do the waistband of my, let's say my maxi skirts, or even if I do pants, I would rather add on to my fabric. So I just want to talk you through that. If you've got a pattern and it's got a cut on band that you've got to actually sew on, I'm going to tell you to rather cut it onto your pants. How are you going to work it out? You're going to take the measurement of whatever your sorry, I've just gone blank, your elastic is. So in this case 2.5 centimeters. So I've got to add on, remember, because it's folding over, I'm actually adding on 5.5 centimeters plus seam allowance, because let's say that is where my line is of my maxi skirt, and then that would have been the band. Now I would cut it all in one, and then I would add my 2.5, and the other 2.5 is for the fold over, and I will add seam allowance as well, because I do cut off a little bit when I am going to sew this band. What I wanted to show you as well, I'm just looking for another pin. I'm just pinning it here. If it's your skirt, for instance, and you're sewing in the round, you would have pinned it like you would usually pin it, and you would go and pull it and make sure that it fits nicely into the skirt panel. Now we've got a circular, let's imagine it's circular. I usually, wherever I want to start, I will go cut out, and I'm just going to do it here on the top. So I won't start from the edge to sew. I'm just going to show you, and I usually give myself about a 1 centimeter seam allowance there. Let me just pin this in place as if it's pinned into my skirt. Can you see that? So I'm just starting in a little bit deeper. I don't want to start on the edge. I just want to show you something. Let's just take this pin out so that I am straight. So if it's in that circular area where I'm going to be sewing, I like to, whatever I'll be cutting off, that seam allowance, can you see, I will go and remove a little part so that I can get this in right next to my blade. So all I'm going to do now I'm going to lift my foot. I'm going to hold onto my thread. I'm turning my flywheel away from me backwards. I just want to throw off my stitches. There's my stitches gone. And now all I'm going to do is, if I'm sewing in the circular in my skirt, that part I've cut out, I can move it right under the needle. The blade is out of the way. It won't be catching my blade. It won't be pushing against the blade. And now I can put it down. And now I will be sewing. Guys, if I pin as well, I like to pin this way when I'm overlocking, so that as soon as I get here, remove your pins. Don't let it go too close. You are going to damage your machine if you are going to hit a pin. So please be aware that if you are there, take your pins out and make sure they're sticking out so you know there's a pin. I actually damaged my machine once. I worked with Mongolian fleece and one of the pins really sunk in and I couldn't see it. So I'm just going to start sewing. Oh yes, and another rule is, if you are working with your elastic, go to your longest stitch length. So on my machine it is a 4. I don't have to set any other settings. It is literally just go longer to your stitch length. Make sure your differential is on normal or on 1. And I'm just going to start sewing this so it can catch there. And another tip, I just wanted to tell you what you've got to do. Look here all the time. You don't want to cut your elastic. I'm making sure my elastic is guided. I've got that edge of the foot. I don't think Petra will be able to zoom in for us, but right on the edge of my foot there, I'm actually looking that my elastic stays there all the time. Otherwise, I'm cutting my elastic and I don't want to cut my elastic. So you can see I'm watching all the time. And I'm guiding here. I'm pulling here a little bit because I'm just doing a sample. I haven't pinned anything. Don't cut your elastic. So please watch your blade. Watch where you are going. Alright, let's cut this off. I didn't pull too much, but if you look at that, can you see? Everything is sewn in all together. So now what I would do is I would fold it over. I don't sew it down at the bottom. I would, wherever I can, stitch in the ditch to keep it from folding out. So that is my wide elastic done. The next one I'm going to do with you is this panty elastic. We want to keep the scallop. On the panty elastic, I've got like a really fluffy side and I've got the shiny side. So now what I want you to do is I want you to actually, I'm just going to put my fabric down here so you can see. So imagine this is the right side of my fabric. I want you to put the elastic with the fluffy side up and the scallop to your left side, and you're going to put it onto your fabric, because when I fold it under, I want that fluffy elastic to be on my body. So when I'm going to do this now, I'm just going to, again, I like to throw off my stitches. I'm just going to place my elastic first in this case. And I'm going to show you just now as well when I work with my foot. I've got an elasticator foot, but for you I'm doing this technique as well because a lot of you don't have the elasticator foot yet. If you can get it, have a look at it. It's a lovely machine, a lovely foot to have on your machine. All right, and again, I'm just going to pull as I'm saying. What I want you to do is, obviously you would have pinned. Now this was the one that I showed you on the nightie that I've done, that I went afterwards with my sewing machine and just sewed it down. This will show up nicely because we do have white elastic and black thread. So let me go. I'm going to start pulling a little bit. And again, I'm not cutting the edge, guys. I am literally looking in between my foot and the blade so that to see that I'm lining it up all the time. And just pull. This controls the fabric. This controls my elastic. And when I've got it and I've pulled it enough, don't keep it up when you're sewing. Put it down. Press down on your fabric. It's just so much easier, otherwise your fabric will also be sliding around. You see I lift, put my finger down, lift, right, so there we've gone, and I've now just sewn that down. Look at that, that's now the wrong side. This is still on my right side. So now what I'm going to do, I can just turn it around, and as I'm pulling it, I can just go and do my zigzag or serpentine stitch, and everything is nicely finished. I just want to keep it like that. Can you see the edges are nicely finished? I find when I sew on my sewing machine and I do a zigzag with elastic, it slips quite a lot, and then I've still got to trim the edge to get a nice finish. Now with this, if you look at it, my edges are nice and neat. I'm putting my finger there so you can see. Let's have a look. Can you see the edge is finished off with the elastic as well, so that when I'm folding it, I'm going to fold it over so you can see there. When I'm folding it over, I've got a perfect finish on the inside when I go and do that. So that was the other way that you can go and do it. Then I'm just going to talk about the elasticator foot. Now I just made a swimsuit for myself, and I wanted it to be a reversible one, and I used the elastic. I just want to show you. I've got it here. I'm just grabbing it. I used elastic. I'm just going to cut a piece to show you guys for swimsuits. So it's more of a rubbery elastic that I used, and I wanted to guide it with my elasticator foot because I had 2 layers of fabric that I sewed in one go because I was making reversible. So what you are going to do, can you see I can lift my elasticator foot, and I just want to show you how it works. It's got little wheels there that's going to keep the elastic in place. I've got this little guy, or this little, like a little screw, and I can tighten it. So the more I want it to pull in my fabric, the tighter I can make it, so it will press down more on the elastic so that I get it more pulled or gathered in. So I'm just going to lift this again, and I'm just going to show you. So all you've got to do is this goes in at the bottom. There we go, and I'm just going to put that down, and you can see I've got a screw there. I will make sure, let me just do that so you guys can see that. Can you see there? It's actually clipped in there. If my elastic is wider, I would loosen the screw, and I've got this little slide so that I can slide it over a little bit more for accommodating my wider elastic. I'm just going to put my elasticator foot on, and then I'll be back to show you how to sew it. Guys, I just wanted to show you my costume that I made. Like I said, I wanted a reversible one. So I've got the nice bright color on the outside, and then sometimes if I just want plain, I can wear it like that. Even the bikini bottom, actually it's quite a high, it's not really a bikini bottom, it goes quite high up to your waist area, and I did that also reversible. So it gives me so many options when I'm wearing this. But I just wanted to show you, because I worked a double layer as I was going, I really concentrated on controlling my lycra fabric. I didn't want to worry about the elastic. So, and you can see I've got this stretch because it's done on the overlocker, and you'll also notice I did a little bit of a plain zigzag after. It's just a tiny little zigzag, because I found when I left it like that, the fabric when I was putting it on was just slightly rolling out, so I decided to do that. The other thing I wanted you to notice, it's not scrunched up. I actually wanted it at the first one I did, I actually tightened the elastic a little bit, and it was pulling in too much for me. With this pattern, I just felt I didn't have to stretch the elastic as I sewed, so my setting on my elasticator foot was really loose. So now what I'm going to show you is I've got my foot on, the elastic is in there. Now you will notice I don't have to worry about the elastic. I can just control my fabric. So if it is 2 layers like with my swimsuit, I can just go control it. The first part of this fabric I'm just going to sew for you without the elastic being held tight with my foot, so that you can see it's not going to pucker my fabric. And then I'm going to tighten the screw so that it holds my elastic tighter, and then you'll see automatically it will stretch the elastic as I'm sewing, and then I'm getting a very even fit because it's stretching the elastic evenly for me. So let's just go with that one, and you'll see I'm really not holding this, I am leaving that, and I'm just sewing. There we go. I've just done this little bit as it is like that. So now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to tighten a little bit. Let's just give it 2 turns. Let's see what happens. I can even go a little bit tighter, but it looks like it's starting to pull my elastic. I just want to get this to the end. Obviously I didn't go and go too tight on it, but just to show you. Okay, this side is totally smooth. Can you see that? Here I could have gone more, but can you see how it's starting to gather my fabric in a little bit? And the more I turn this little screw, the more it's going to pull the elastic, because it pushes down on the elastic, that little roller that's in there, and it stretches my elastic while my fabric is being fed under it. So I could have gone and really done a lot more gathering on that one as well. And again, look at that. So perfect. If it was just sewing it as it is, I can go around and do a zigzag. Mine, because I sewed it as a reversible one, I've got another layer. I had my right sides together of the lycra and I sewed it, and I had to eventually flip it and pull the right side out. So it was a bit of a complicated sew, but it actually came out very nice. But there you go, can you see? And while we do, just while I'm mentioning it, if I'm really gathering in, that's why I need my stitch length to be so much longer, because sometimes with that elastic it will pull the fabric in more and it looks like the stitches is almost on top of each other. And that's why the stitch length must be longer, so that if it does pull in, the stitches is not as dense on my fabric. So just one last look. Just wanted to show you, that's why we love our overlockers. Again, can you see if I'm working on a normal fabric? Okay, then you couldn't see it, but look at my stretch I've got on my swimsuit. Everywhere, and even at the back, it was just sewn into there. It's even got just a plain back. You just tie it in the front, so it was such a nice costume to make. I just love that one. But again, this whole costume, guys, were made on my overlocker with my elasticator foot. The only thing I did on my sewing machine was the little zigzag to keep it in place. So your sewing elastics can be so much easier for you. No fuss, gives you a nice finish if you use your overlocker.